Hello everyone, today I'm talking about the 007 film, The Spy Who Loved Me. Now, this is a movie that I feel like after a couple duds in the Bond franchise, this is one that really breathed new life into the franchise after a couple movies that weren't as good, were kind of lackluster, were kind of mixed. I think a lot of people can agree that this was a really good one. This movie came out in 1977. If you don't know it came out that year, it's the year that Star Wars started. We all know that, right? This movie follows James Bond as, well, alright, so we have the Russian version of James Bond, which is this woman, and we see how 007 goes on this mission, and, like, there's this amazing opening action sequence of him skiing, like on these skis, going down this snowy hill, kind of like he did on Her Majesty's Secret Service, if that's the right one. And then, he's skiing down it, and then he shoots this guy with, like, this ray gun. But want to know who that guy was? He wasn't just any guy. He was the Russian version of James Bond, but the female version's lover. Yeah, I got it that time. Took that 5 takes. Got it that time. So, anyways, she doesn't know this yet, and 007 doesn't, and James Bond doesn't know that he was her lover. But see, they have to go on a mission together to show that these two groups during the Cold War can actually work together. And now, the main baddie here is a little bit different from the other ones we've seen in other films. Like, this one that we see in this one, he just wants to bring back Atlantis. He don't even know if it exists. He just wants to see what will happen, to be honest. He really has a really flimsy plan. It's basically just to drop this gigantic bomb that will, like, wipe everything off the surface and bring the ocean up. And he knows, and people literally say that, hey, wouldn't you die? You would never get to see what you did. And he just doesn't answer it. He just pretends like it was never asked. Like, why bring it up when you're not going to answer it? Yeah, and you get what I'm saying here? I mean, it's kind of like, why did they bring it up? I mean, I don't know. So, that's my whole gripe with the villain. That his plan is, like, extremely stupid. But, apart from all that, there is a lot of good action sequences in this. And actually, so many good ones that it reminds me of a certain movie. What movie, you may ask? Raiders of the Lost Ark. And now, hear me out. So, James Bond, 007, goes to Egypt with this girl, right? And Cairo and all that. So then, but they run into a few bad guys that stop them along the way. And they're trying to get this thing, right? Does that not sound like Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark? Him and this girl are going to Egypt, Cairo, all that, to find this thing. And some of the action sequences in this movie also remind me of Raiders. So it's like, did Raiders take a little bit of inspiration from The Spy That Loved Me? Who knows? Could be not. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Probably is, to be honest. Anyways, so there's a lot of good action sequences here, and there's a lot that takes place here. And I feel like this movie's a little bit different from the others because it shows a globe-trotting adventure that not a whole lot of the Bond films have shown up to this time. And I'm watching these in chronological order. At the time of recording and possibly uploading, I have not seen any of the others past this. So everything I'm saying right now could just be absolute crap. And my opinion could change after I watch 2 more James Bond movies in chronological order. Anyway, so, and there's a few jokes that are cracked here. So, like, there's this big muscle guy, and he ends up reappearing in some of the other movies. Basically, the odd job of this movie. And he has these like, teeth of absolute steel, not even joking. And he just, like, bites into somebody off screen and they die, and they just fall. And those unconvinced death, there's not even blood. It's just, they're totally unscathed, but they're dead. It's, I don't know. I mean, 70s, I guess. I'm so stupid. Anyways, there's a lot of good sequences here. Like, there's this one point where they're both in a van. Now she doesn't even really like Mr. James Bond. She's just, like, following along. But you can tell they have chemistry, even though they're choosing not to like each other, even though they're basically being drawn together in this whole adventure. And through this, we get to see how they bond, and eventually, she does figure out, wait, you killed my lover, and you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna kill you once this mission's over. So now, James Bond is an interesting scenario here where he's like, so now I have to work with this person and keep her safe. But at the same time, she's gonna kill me after this whole adventure's over. So what do? Well, you know what James Bond always does? Sleeps with the women after making eye contact with them for 5 seconds. So that's exactly what he does. And, well, you know, he's James Bond. It ends up well for him. He ends up banging the Russian version of James Bond, and it's all a happy ending. But the most notable sequence here, other than James Bond making a joke about how women drivers are horrible, the submarines, not the submarine, but this whole sequence that's on a boat. So they're in the submarine, and then they get dragged into this huge boat. And now this is where the missiles are held that they're gonna launch, bring the ocean up to the surface. Everybody die. It's gonna get crazy. And this is the best choreographed, the best set design. There is infinite compliments for the sequence. Everything is so planned out, from the choreography to how it looks. And the set, you can feel how big it is. Because sometimes there are these shots where there's a bunch of explosions. And at the same time, you can just see this shot of like everything, all this commotion happening in this one hangar. It's amazing. Infinite compliments here. This movie is definitely an innovation for the James Bond franchise. And me personally, so far, this is my most favorite one out of all of them. I love this movie so much. So now I'm going to do my sections of good, okay, and the bad. There's stuff for all categories. So now we're going to start off with the good. Again, like I said, the ending action sequence is pristine. This is absolutely amazing. Some of the jokes that James Bond cracks in this movie, he's a little bit more wise, which is nice. A lot of the sequences that take place in Egypt and Cairo, like there's this one scene where he's fighting the big buff guy, and then they're under the scaffolding, and then he just like swings around, like tricks him into falling into the scaffolding. And then there's also where they're trying to leave, but the guy's just like ripping the van apart that they're trying to get away in, and he's just like, women drivers, and she just drives aggressively, horribly through the entire sequence. Man, these jokes are awesome. Anyways, again, I love James Bond in this movie a lot better than I liked the guy's performance in the other movies, whatever he was in. And yeah, so now I'm going to move on to the okay category. Something that's okay is honestly the villain. The villain's plan is, again, so stupid. It's like so dumb. And I don't take it too seriously. It's a James Bond movie. These movies are meant to be silly and gimmicky and all that. But it's like, this guy is not as smart as he looks. Or thinks he is. He is way not as smart as he thinks he is. And, all that aside, I think something else that's pretty okay is there anything else that's really okay? Not that I can think of right now, so that's why we're going to move on to I can think of one more thing that's okay. The Bond girl's underutilized in the third act. When they're on this boat, she could have been doing some cool stuff, but she's just tied to a chair. For that entire sequence, they could have done something with that character that could have been cool. Apart from that, everything was, yeah. Now we're going to move on to the bad category. Now this is all pretty much nitpicks. I, again, loved this movie. Favorite Bond film up to this point. And now we're going to talk about the ones that we're like, you know what? Why'd they do this? So I'm going to put the villain on the okay and the bad category at the same time. Kind of just bridges that gap. So again, the villain, I've talked about the plot to death and why I hate his plan. So stupid. And something else, I guess, is like how it ends. So they escape. And then you just have these agents that are just looking in. and they're just like, just seeing them bang in like this thing with the window open, like, seriously? Come on. And these intro sequences, even though they're highly stylized and they look amazing, little bit long. Little bit long for my taste. Let me say, little bit too long. But hey, again, love this movie. There's so many well choreographed sequences. An amazing Bond film. What did you guys think? I posted my thoughts about this movie on Reddit probably a few days ago, and people for the most part agreed with me. But they also said, hey, wait until you watch the other ones because it definitely gets better later on. But I have to give this movie a rating. Out of 10, I'm going to give this movie a, I don't know, 8.5. Actually, no, let's just round that down to an 8. What would that be out of 5? Maybe like a 4? I do better at 10 because then I can just get all the different details in the thing. So, yeah, so that's just my thoughts on The Spy That Loved Me. If you all enjoyed this video or any of my other content, please consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.